Why do you paint so large? That is the usual question. Because a lot of people, because of the scale, they're thinking about um, reality environments, like how does that fit in a house, or how would that be installed somewhere in a home. But for me, the concept of art and painting isn't really about how it's placed or where it goes. It's about the exploration and experimentation of an idea, and scale is very important as far as the kind of work that I'm doing. So the explanation of that is that it's the scale is what enhances the work that I'm doing, or as I feel anyway, personally.
Gotcha.
Opinion. Why do your paintings cost $1 million? Per square inch. Just kidding. That's a good question. I don't really feel overtly influenced by societal structures or media, but the truth is that you absorb that stuff anyway, whether you know it or not. So I guess I would say, I don't know if it's a cultural thing or an essence of American ideology, in that the concept of being here or being in this environment was spawned by an idea of individual freedoms and the ability to be what you wanted to be, if you did the right amount of work, or you put the effort in, or if you had an idea, you could come here and you could be whatever you wanted to be. And so basically, I think that's the energy in this environment, is it's open, like there's it's boundless. So in the time that I've been here, I've done multiple things. So I've been a fashion designer, a musician, and now I'm an artist painter. And I'm sure you can do that in lots of other places, but that ability to evolve and try many different things is very much a part of the civilization, the society. That's not a rare thing. You meet a lot of people here, especially when you spend time in places like New York. There's people that are doing multiple things at once, or they've done multiple things. They've been an artist, they've been an actor, they've been a painter. Maybe they were in finance, maybe they moved to, TV or something. So there's lots of avenues, and it's not constrained. Yeah, and I'm very influenced by music. Obviously, having played in a band for 20 plus years, it's an integral part of my life. And even before that, and now, I listen to music constantly. And depending on the day, I don't always listen to music. Sometimes I'll listen to frequency sounds like solfeggio, certain hertz, repetitive hertz that are inspiring or inspirational for mental stimulation. But in general, I'll listen to a wide range of music. I could be listening to Elgar on one day and the Stooges the next day, and anything in between. So I'm listening to, the kind of influences of music that I came out of as a musician or as a singer. I would listen to stuff like, you know, anything from the 20s through contemporary. So, you know, I'll be listening to anything like that and within that range. So blues, rock, soul, funk, R&B, new wave, post-punk, alternative, you know. Obviously a lot of Manchester bands find their way in there, you know. Don't know why that is, but, you know, I've heard there's a couple of good bands there. So yeah, you know, Joy Division, stuff like that, New Order, Stone Roses, Happy Mondays, you know. I observe, and I'm obviously aware, and I notice trends and what's going on, like seeing how, you know, the street style or the youth are, you know, wearing or buying into, literally, styles or trends. But it doesn't really influence my work because most of my figurative stuff is in a state of undress. I mean, so it's the body. It's not always the nude, but the musculature and the shape and form of the body is important. So the clothing really doesn't come into it. It may have done in some ways in the past, but it wasn't really done for stylistic reasons. It was more about shape and form. But obviously, as I've moved into the more figurative bodily expression, then obviously the clothing is it's moot. Yeah, I mean it is a performance, right? Life is a performance, but not in a overtly theatrical or egotistical way. It's a presentation, right? So if you're an extension of your work and your reality is a symbiotic relationship between the two-dimensional work and the three-dimensional you. So you extend out into the world and create, and then the 2D is then projected back into the 3 dimensions. So you're a part of that. So yeah, obviously if you're doing an opening or an open studio or in a gallery environment, you want to be able to engage the people in a way that is a representation of you as an extension of your art. So yeah, I always think about the way I present myself in those environments, but as a way for people to engage with me, but as an extension of my work. My primary muse. There was a lot of the figurative and the self-portrait, but in using the whole figure, and that came out purely not by accident, by circumstance or the environment that you're in. So, for example, you know, space in New York is a premium, right? So my studio was tiny. It was 11 feet wide by, I don't know, 20 feet long or something. And I'm doing these large pieces and I have a lot of work in there, right? So I was trying to figure out how I was going to do the figurative thing. It's like, well, do I hire models and bring them in? I mean, how am I going to do that in this tiny space and walk around them and do what I need to do? So basically, I have a digital camera that does video. So I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll set up the camera, I'll put it on video, and I'll just work with the camera on record and then go back and look at it, and maybe I can use that. So I did that, and I got some really good images, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I can actually use, this is actually an interesting way to see movement, because I'm actually taking an image, I'm going through the video and I'll freeze it and I'll move backwards and forwards. Oh, I like that pose, or I like this, or this movement. So you're capturing the in between using the video. So it was like this light bulb moment. So it's like, oh, you know, that's kind of cool. So obviously I'm around all day, right? So that was how the using myself, because I'm there, right? So I would do these poses and stuff and move around, and then that would be the inspiration for the work. So like kind of a happy accident by circumstance. But yeah, it was good to do that. It's not really it's not really an ego thing. It's just availability, because I'm there. You know, I don't have to wait on somebody. I have an idea in my head. I do that now. You know, I'll set it up and I'll do the moves and poses, because I have a perception of what I want to do for this piece. So I don't have to explain it to somebody or say, no, do this, do that. But for some of the other stuff, like if I'm doing, you know, other figures, or I'm doing female, obviously I don't use myself. So I'll have people, you know, pose for those. But yeah, that was the reason for using myself in the beginning, circumstance and the tiny studio. Keep on keeping on. Yeah, this is it's a lifetime journey, experiment, artistic figuring out. It's, you know, I'm basically full-time, 5 days a week working on this stuff. And I guess the goal is to expand the, what would you say, the footprint. So more people are aware of the work and are able to enjoy it. Obviously with technology and the ability to express work, you know, online and digitally, that's some of the way to change and elevate the experience for people. I'd really like to expand into other countries. You know, America is a big place, and there's lots of opportunities in other places as well. So definitely moving out into UK and Europe and Asia would be probably the ongoing journey, expansion of the concept. What inspired me to pursue a career as an artist? I've always been interested. That's really, even when I was a child, I drew, I sang. I was always into creative endeavors. I think the first thing I remember is when I was probably like 5 or 6, actually maybe a little over 7, but I entered a drawing competition in a local newspaper and won first prize. And the prize was an iron for ironing your clothes. So my mum got that prize. So that was the first thing that I ever did as a, you know, as a, what would you say, competition. But yeah, I've always drawn from an early age. I always sang. Throughout school, I was in the choir, in the orchestra. I played clarinet in the orchestra, sang in the choir, did theatre, and the art was always a integral part of my life. Both things that I'm interested in artistically. Growing up, going to galleries and looking at, you know, different kinds of work. The sort of stuff that inspired me was sort of very wide cross-section. I liked a lot of mid-20th century work. So things like Francis Bacon, Robert Rauschenberg, Pollock, color field theory, and then sculptural stuff that I was really interested in. I'd gone to a museum and I'd seen some sculptures, these very thin sort of figurative things that were, very sort of emaciated, but they really interested me, and it turned out they were Alberto Giacometti sculptures, and his work was very sort of interesting to me. But earlier than that, I was always interested in Impressionist work like Degas, Cézanne, Rodin, people like that. So definitely influenced by that Impressionist meeting 20th century artists. So even into the early teens, Egon Schiele and Blue Rider, Kandinsky, stuff like that. So there's a wide range of stuff, but a lot of it is this combination, the idea of color, using color and figurative elements, but in a way that's outside of the norm. I'm using linear and color ideas to describe the human form as a canvas. I have been to art school. I did what they call in England Art Foundation. If you want to pursue an art degree in the UK, you have to do a 1-year foundation between what back then was sixth form college, your A-levels, and you do a 1-year foundation course, and on that course you do everything related to art. So you'll study graphic design, fine art painting, sculpture, photography, printmaking, you name it, whatever you can think of, you study it for that year, and then that gives you a sort of a well-rounded look into art world and what you would want to do. And my sort of direction was I wanted to do fashion. So out of that, I applied to Kingston University School of Fashion to study fashion, and did my degree in fashion. I use other media in my work. Like obviously the main work is the canvas, large canvas. I do in between smaller ones as well, but acrylic mixed media on canvas. But I also do prints. So I do monoprints on paper, which I do, by hand, one at a time, sort of using varying kind of techniques, but I use the sort of reverse transfer, drawing on the back to get an impression using color, large areas of color with figurative elements on top. So I do monoprints. I've also done a little bit of sculpture. That is sort of figurative and abstract mixed, and also I have these what I call video paintings, where I'll incorporate video and the canvas. So basically I'll take a video, usually with a figurative element of movement in slow motion, project that onto the canvas, and then repeat it over and over on a loop. And as it's moving, I'll paint, and the video creates the piece with me. And then once the piece is finished, you can project the video onto the piece, and you get the painting and the video, and you can use one or the other. You can use the video or not. So multiple variations on an idea. It's fairly organic, actually. I don't do a lot of like studies or sketchbook work. I've done that in the past, but I like the immediacy of sort of the unknown a little bit. So basically, usually when I've finished a piece, like this one is close to being done, maybe I'll start to think about the size maybe, or what I want, what I haven't done, or something the opposite of the piece I've done before. So maybe I'll think about, well, okay, this one's got a lot of yellows and reds and warm colors. Maybe the next one needs to be the opposite, you know, some blues and some cooler elements. So maybe I'll think like that. But basically what I do is I'll start to think about or create on the day, you know, once I've hung the canvas and prepped it, I then start to work on the figurative things. So that's when I'll use the video and start making the poses. And it might take me a couple of days. I might spend a couple of days trying different figures, different poses. Yeah, no, that doesn't work. That looks weird. And I'll just work on that. Usually takes me a couple of days really to come up with the perfect feel. And once I've got that image, usually the figurative is once I've got the figurative part, then I'll start working on the actual piece and start working on the figure. It does depend. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll paint the background first. It's sort of evolved over time. Originally I would do the background and then the figure was sort of incorporated on. So the two there was a transparency with the figure. So the background will be done first and then I would work in with the figure. As the work has evolved and the figures is more of a canvas, so there's less of that transparency. I tend to work on the outline of the figure first, but then I'll start to build up, so it's a back and forwards. So maybe I'll start to put some very light color on the figure to get the feel, and then I'll start to do very light color in the background. Okay, so now I'm starting to build up like a picture, literally. And it's very much as you go. So it's not trial and error, but I'm basically just tentatively working up. So I do these very thin washes. So it's multiple layers to build up. And that way I can really work backwards and forwards between the background and the figure and pull one area out. That'll change something else. And then to work on that. So there's this real sort of symbiotic relationship between the evolution of the piece and myself. So things might happen within that change that I wasn't planning on, but that you go off in that direction, right? Because you've been steered in that by whatever forces or yourself or just the natural evolution of the piece. Because you might have an idea. That's why I don't really like to go in with a preconceived, like a finished thumbnail or a study, because it's evolving, right? It's sort of, you're on a journey with it and it evolves as you work on it. That being said, when I work on commissions, it's usually the opposite, right? So I have the ability to do that as well. So with a commission, usually you have to do all that stuff because the client wants they have a specific idea. That I'll do completely differently. I will work studies and we agree on the final study, and from that they get that representation. So that's set in stone. So with a commission it's completely different. I work from a study that they've signed off on. So I get to do both, which is kind of cool. Themes and emotions. I'm not overtly influenced by that kind of stuff. I don't really think in those terms when I'm working. I'm really thinking about color, form, and abstraction. So the emotional, I try not to, I don't even try. It's like I'm not even really engaging those kind of approaches. It's very much a relationship between the work, the line, the color, and the expression. Maybe the emotion comes through the work from my working with it in the intensity, because the big ones, they take a lot of time. 2 months for the 6x8 feet ones. There's a lot of work, a lot of energy, and you're expending that over that extended period. You can't help but imbue your work with that natural element, because you're trying to, especially with the way I work, like I said, whereas I'm trying to dial it in as I go, and maybe things go off in a different direction, or I have to think about stuff and pull back, that's maybe the emotional part, or the energy part. But my work isn't overtly about that. People do get a very strong reaction. I have people that are get very strong reaction to the work, but I'm not trying to elicit that. That must be a natural expression of the work. I'm not trying to manipulate people through their emotions. I want basically to create something that's pleasing, to the eye, and makes people feel good about being alive. We don't. I don't think. Maybe it's a subconscious thing. I don't overtly integrate my existence or my individuality or my day. I come in, I do my stuff, and I have a concept, and and it evolves. It evolves over time, but I wouldn't say that I do that deliberately. It's just your existence comes into the work purely by the fact of the style or the technique or the subject matter that you're engaged with. So maybe people might feel that there's an element of my daily or my journey through life, but I'm not really trying to be obvious about that. I want it to be what the viewer gets out of it. I can explain to them, or they can ask me about what the feeling or why I did the painting, but it's really up to them. I don't want to force an idea. Like, somebody could come in and say to me, oh, I see, faces in the background, or I see doorways or windows, which somebody had said about one of the pieces. It's like, oh, you've got doorways in the back of the painting. And I was like, yeah, never saw it, but now you pointed it out. It's actually true, right? So doorway to maybe another world, a lot of stuff that I think about existentially or, philosophically, maybe by osmosis come into the work, but I'm not doing that overtly. I'm not trying to impress an idea or steer people. Like I said, it's really about creating something that's I feel people are inspired by, or feel is beautiful, or makes them feel good about being, alive. So, yeah, that's it. Don't know if that's a good answer, but that's what you're getting. Next.
Let's switch battery real quick. Okay?
Switch battery.
Let's switch battery real quick.
Very. And not so much as a direction pointing me or any direction of like future work. I like to get people's feedback. What do they see? Which pieces are inspiring to them? It's funny, like anything, it's probably like music, like your favorite song, and everybody else likes the one that you can't stand that becomes the hit. And it's kind of like not the same, but like the one that you've spent maybe a lot of work on a piece, and you're like, yeah, put everything into this one, and they're like, yeah, that one's good, but I really love this one, and it's one you took like 5 minutes, maybe like a sketch, and they're like, oh, this one's amazing. Well, what about this one? Yeah, that was okay, but this one, but interpretation is good. I remember when I first started working, I was doing some more abstracted stuff, and at the time I'd had sinus surgery. I had a deviated septum, and they fixed it, but they'd done the CAT scan. So I'd taken an image from the CAT scan looking from above at my, your head from the top. So you've got this sort of circle and your nose at the top and then your brain inside. And so I used that as sort of an abstract image in the back of a few pieces that I was doing. At that time, I was sort of experimenting with those kind of ideas and some of the numbers and the imagery from the X-rays, MRI. And so, actually, I think it was a CAT scan, sorry. But I remember this open studio we had, and a mum came in with her daughter, and she couldn't have been more than like 8, and she looks at this painting and she goes, "A cat! I see a cat!" And I was like, and as soon as she said it, I realized what she was saying, because if you kind of looked at the shape of this CAT scan, the brain part here sort of looked like the eyes, and then obviously the nose was like the little ears, and then obviously the head was the face of the cat. And I was like, that's brilliant, and it totally changed my way of looking at the piece. So it's interesting how somebody can come in and see something you don't, that you then recognize, and it totally opens up a different feeling. Like it was sort of a fun feeling about the painting. The painting was quite dark. There was a lot of blacks and dark blues, and that sort of imbued it for this child as this sort of engaging, which I thought was fantastic. So yeah, it's really important, people's how they relate to the work. No. Next. No, just kidding. I don't. I create work that is challenging me, pushing me, and the boundaries of the ideas that I'm trying to express. Or maybe in my head I have a look or a feel or a way I want the work to look. That might take some time to dial in over trying different things out, and trying to make the physical thing represent what I'm seeing in my mind, in my head. And that's not always an immediate thing, so it's a trial and error. And sometimes you'll have an idea or an expression or direction that seems good or interesting, and you try it and it doesn't really work. And but you have to express, you have to try those, you have to attempt those expressions of what's in your mind into the reality. And sometimes you get a better version, right? So like I said with the happy accident with the video, and how that basically opened up my whole practice. Just that light bulb moment, and the limitations of the space totally sent me off in the direction that I've basically been exploring and inverse pyramiding for the last 10, 11 years. So yeah, those things are really, really important. Yeah, like I just explained with the little girl with the cat. But then there's other things as well. People, like I said, the door. People said the doorway. It's this one actually. This person had said that you have windows and doors in the background, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, you're right. So there's subconscious things that you're trying to express or show people that you're not immediately aware of, that somebody else will see. So yeah, those things, it's great to have that kind of existence. It's everything. It's everything and nothing. It's important and it's not. people get caught up in the idea of anything, right? You can get caught up in the idea of a machine or a device or a structure or an outfit or whatever it might be. But they're all, you know, everything that humanity exists in is art, right? Somebody thought of it. It's creative, I guess, in a way. Somebody had to pick up something and figure that out from in here, up there, in here, through, out, into existence, right? Whether that's the pencil or a spaceship, right? A rocket ship. Somebody had to design that. Somebody had to be creative, and it is an art, right? So art is life, life is art. So it, like I said, it's important, and it's not. It's important in that it's an expression and a way for us to build out into reality and explore into the inner and the outer. But also, when I say it's not important, is in that you don't want to get caught up in it for the sake of, right? So it's not its value is in the fact that you create it, not in the perception of the value.
How do you view the role of abstract and figurative art in today's society?
Like from other artists, I don't really look at a lot of contemporary art. I'm not an artist that goes to galleries or openings that much because I have a very strong sense of what I want to explore as an artist and as an individual through that expression. I will say that it's becoming more accepted again. Like there was definitely, when I first started getting seriously into the painting after I did the music, so around 2013, and I was doing the figurative and with the elements of abstract, there was definitely sort of a disdain. It wasn't overt or spoken, but you could tell that it wasn't, you know, the thing that people thought it was dated, right? Who cares? Not interested in that. But as a societal artist thing, it definitely wasn't what a lot of people were doing. And if they were doing it, it was in a very sort of dismantling or an abstraction of humanity. So almost as if they were trying to deconstruct the human form. I mean, obviously, as people push one direction of organic ideology, that was probably one of the reasons why. But as you see the break as well, as one direction is going very inhuman, obviously the opposite reaction is going to be encompassing the human. So I think you're seeing there is a direction, and it has been over the last few years, where figurative is becoming more varied, and actually more people are doing it, which, you know, is great. It doesn't really matter to me if people if contemporaries are doing the same thing, or a combination of. It's an original journey for me, and if other people are along with it, that's great. But yeah, it's definitely evolved over the last 10, 12 years. It's people are more open to it, or more interested in owning or having a figurative piece. Because I think, you know, I'd heard people say, you know, in the early days when I was doing this, it's like, oh yeah, it's a really nice piece, but I would never have another person on my wall like it. And it's like, okay, you know, I understand that. But, you know, there's room for everything. And I think the figurative thing, like I said, will have its own journey. You'll never not have figurative work or a variation of that, simply because we are that, right? We walk around in a physical machine, right? It's an analog machine. We're made of organic elements. So you want to understand that. You want to figure out, well, why? Why does it do that? Why does it go like that? Why do I sound this way? When I look, why is it that I see that? Why do I hear what I hear? So you're always going to be studying or experimenting or thinking about that, because that's the whole point of being here. I think the whole point of art is to break boundaries. It should be fluid, yeah. Obviously there's structures or techniques or ways of doing certain things, or there's movements in art, but expression of art, of self and ideas, and interaction with your 3D environment, is the key. So boundaries, yeah, I'm not really interested, in those. Obviously the boundaries you're set by your, the physical surface that you work on, or whatever medium you're in. But there's ways to engage those, or to try different things. So there should be a fluidity, and there's a lot of artists that can integrate multiple things in interesting ways, and have done for, many generations. I think any artist comes up against we all encounter the same, not obstacles, but it's a process, right? There's a lot of artists, there's a lot of art, there's a lot of media, especially in modern world, where you have social media and technology and the scrolling, the speed scrolling. It's a blessing and a curse, right? The ability to reach the whole planet, but so is everybody else. So the challenges are finding a way to engage people without being what's the word? Theatrical. A lot of stuff is done purely for flash or clicks or to catch, but there's no depth. So I think for a lot of artists trying to navigate the ever-changing and forward-moving environment is it's not easy, and you need to engage with the outside, right? It's great to be in the studio and work with people, work with the work, but meeting people and engaging people and them seeing your work is paramount, because you want people to enjoy it, right? And to be able to experience it, maybe not in the physical, but maybe they can, they like the picture, or they buy a print, or whatever it might be, or they, buy the painting. But you've got to be able to engage with people, and it's not the easiest thing to do, even with all the benefits that we have today, because so many people are doing it. So you have to, it has to be a constant journey. I read a great book by a guy called Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art, which is a play on the Sun Tzu book, Art of War. And he basically had some great points in there that I still, think about today. I read that book when I was first starting the painting, so 12 years ago. And the thing that he said, the key to being a creative is like, or even being good at anything, whether it's a plumber or a mechanic or everything, right? You turn up every day. You turn up every day. Art's no different, right? If you're a mechanic or something, you have to be there every day, right? You're there at a certain time, you work till a certain time. Same with art, anything creative. You come in, you do it every day, or, you know, as a work week, I do 5 days a week, right? So Monday to Friday, come in at the same time, and I leave at the same time, and I work every day in that way. Consistency is the key to overcoming the obstacles. And by that, you're creating a large body of work, and you're always pushing your boundaries. And having that kind of integrity, you can put into social media and the internet stuff as well, and overcome those obstacles. And because of the web and the internet and the technology, there's a lot of avenues for artists to reach people that in the past they may have had to have just relied on a gallery or somebody else, right, who's taking a percentage of your work, a lot usually. So some of those things have opened up. So those allow you to overcome these hurdles or obstacles. But again, everybody else is doing the same. So it's about consistency. I don't have creative blocks, and that's the key. And that was one of the things. That was why that's a great book. You know, having done music and knowing how to work through those kind of blocks, because you have to, right? If you've got a band and you're working and you're writing a song, by creating all the time, you create a backlog, and you're not, even if you do have a little bit of a, like I said, sometimes it'll take me 2 days to figure out what am I going to do with what's the elements that are going to be this painting. But you just keep working at it, right? That's not right, that's not right, that's not right. Okay, that kind of looks good. So it's the repetition and doing it consistently. That's the key to overcoming any block. And like I said, in the War of Art, Pressfield talks about that, you know, because that's what sabotages a lot of creatives, is that they get to a block, right? So the goal is to work all the time. That way you don't really have a block, even if you have one, because you just keep doing. And yeah, sometimes it's difficult if you don't have an environment that's set up the right way. You know, I'm lucky I have a studio, I can come here. Like, I don't work well at home. Like, if I'm at home, I have stuff there. If I work at home, it's not the same. It doesn't have the same energy. So you have to create the environment to overcome certain obstacles for certain people. You know, some people can work at home and do great work. You know, for me, it's being in a space that's conducive to coming in, consistently working on the same things. Continuity and being able to do it, you know, consistently for so long, with the support of my wife, you know, and friends, family. That's, you know, that's the key, is the being able to be that for the majority of the day, the week, the year, the time. And yeah, that's probably the main thing. I did have a great show in Indonesia that my buddy John put together in 2019. That was pretty epic. In Jakarta, a great gallery. Art One New Museum. We were 4 artists, and we each had a floor in this huge, beautiful building, and had a great show, great feedback, great turnout. Had a great time in the city, and went to Bali and hung out on the beach with him. So yeah, that was a super rewarding experience to have my work exhibited in a completely different place on the planet, literally on the other side of the world from where I was in New York, right? I had this great opportunity, and it was extremely rewarding. Everything about it was phenomenal.
Just imagine. How do you feel your art has evolved over time?
It's evolved exponentially. you know, we're working on cataloging all my work right now, photographing, photoing it and creating a digital archive. And when you look, or when we look, it's funny, because I don't have those paintings out. You know, we've been pulling out paintings from 2013, 2014 and on. And to look at a piece from 2014, it's now 2025, right? That's 11 years. And next to a piece that I just finished probably in the last 3 months. And it's, in some ways it's completely different, but the elements of the evolution and the journey are visible in each other. So yeah, it's changed massively. I was much more abstract in the beginning. A lot of it was a lot more free. I was using a lot of charcoal pastel on top of the acrylic, so it had a much more abstracted feel. And now it's become much more, there's a realism in the form, almost hyperreal in some ways, because I'm using a lot of colors on the body. So there's definitely an overtly hyper surreal, real, almost psychedelic, but that's not something that I'm trying to explore. But there's elements of that. So there's a massive change between the last 11 years. But like I said, obviously you see the kernel or the foundation of where it's grown to through the side-by-side viewing of the decade plus. I just have an ongoing practice. So I'm working on, like I said, a daily, weekly creative endeavor. I am planning on doing some art shows, not just in the States, but probably in the UK over the next year or so, and really trying to branch out into those markets and online, developing the business model online. So opening up the availability of the work in different ways so people can access the work, maybe not for the original pieces unless they want those, but I'm going to be doing a lot of limited edition one-off print runs of the original pieces in varying sizes and styles, so that there's an affordable way to own a piece of my work and it's easily accessible. It's a size you can put in a frame, stick on your wall. It's not going to cost you a ridiculous amount of money, and it will fit. They'll be doing small size, probably like 11 by 14 through 20 by 30, and standard sizes, so people can access those really easily, right? You can buy the print, you can buy a frame, and good to go. So yeah, definitely opening up the ways to get a piece that you like online through the website, developing the website as a digital storefront and access to the works. And obviously it'd be nice to build like a following of people that are interested in the work, that then basically offering limited edition specifically to people that like the work, or collectors or followers that like the work, special deals and prices and stuff like that. So for people that are really interested in acquiring stuff. So yeah, a lot of that sort of thing, making the stuff super accessible.
Cool. Where do you see your art going in the next 5 to 10 years?
To the moon! Alice? You'd have to be a certain age to get that joke. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, just the same, onwards and upwards. Yeah, just more of the same. Yeah, Don't really know what to say other than keep on keeping on. That if the right opportunity came along, I would totally jump at a collaboration. It would be fun to do something like that, but haven't had anything so far. And those things will happen organically if somebody sees the work or I see somebody's work. It would be nice to do. I actually had an idea for a performance piece, a live sound, vision, painting concept that I want to approach. It's putting that together. That's a lot of work and a big sort of an experimentation thing as well to pull it off in the way that I'm thinking. But yeah, if I could do that, I would like to collaborate with musicians. Would actually be kind of cool, like a sound, like I said, a live sound painting, live creation thing in the room, experienced by people in the room and being filmed, live streamed globally. So yeah, that would be an interesting collaboration. Everything that I've said, consistency, work on your craft, whatever that may be, and yeah, the consistency. Even if you want to do it and you've got a day job, or you're doing something part-time, or you're doing the art part-time, the key is to doing something every day, even if it's 10 minutes or just a drawing or a sketch. Like I said, I don't really work sketchbook stuff because I'm in here every day doing the large stuff, the consistent painting. But for anyone starting out, absolutely, is just work on something every day. There's a great little book, I think it was for oil painters, like a painting a day, and basically the techniques for basically creating one painting every single day over an extended period. Maybe you do it for a week or 10 days or a month, but basically you're doing small pieces. Like, so if you're doing oils, you can do it with anything, right? You're drawing, some people do like a 365-day drawing every day. You could do maybe, you can do little pieces, 6x6. I think that doing a painting a day, it's like that size, 6 inches by 6 inches on a panel or something. So there's lots of ways to get yourself to create stuff. And then suddenly, once you've got a backlog, the intimidation is less to move forward, because you can look at a body of work, right? If you did one painting a day for 2 weeks, that's 14 pieces of work that you've got to now look at as inspiration to go forward. So it's always about moving forward, and it's always about, even if you do one little drawing, right, or you do one little painting, or you work on something for 5 minutes, you do that 5 minutes every day, and then it's 10 minutes every day, and then maybe you get to do it 3 afternoons a week, and then it becomes 5 afternoons a week, and then it becomes, because that's the whole point, is you want to expand the amount of time you're doing it. But the key is doing something every day, even if it's 5 minutes. I play music. I used to play the music. Even now, I'll play for 5 minutes before I head out to the studio, or I'll work on a song or an idea. If I come up with an idea, record it. 1 minute. I come up with a riff, record 1 minute. Right? Recorded, off to the next thing. Suddenly you've got, 30 ideas. And that's the key, is the consistency, work, do it every day. And don't let other people tell you can't be, or you shouldn't, or why don't you, right? You find a way. People are always going to try and tell you that you're not going to be able to do it because they can't do it, or they don't have the energy or the power to succeed at something that they probably wanted to do. If you have a vision and you want to do something and be something, do it. Do it 5 minutes a day, every day. and that 5 minutes will become something bigger.
How do you hope to be remembered as an artist?
Through my body of work, basically. You know, one of the reasons I think people create work is an immortality. You want to outlive your existence, right? And art is a way to do that. I listen to musicians that have been dead for 100 years, right? And you'll still be able to listen to them in 100 years, you know, King Oliver or somebody like that, or a Howlin' Wolf or a Jimi Hendrix, or, you know, Caravaggio, right? Phenomenal painter. 500 years ago, some of the most incredible art you'll ever see in existence, right? And you can still see that today. That guy's outlived, you know, 10 times his physical existence. So, yeah, that's the key, you know. People look after my work, it should be around long after I'm gone, which is, you know, is an extension of self. But it's also, you know, for somebody to enjoy it. Yeah, that's the main thing, is that people are inspired maybe to do something in the future. You know, 100 years from now, somebody sees one of my pieces and goes, man, I want to do something like that, but I can do it better. Okay, cool. Do it. Be better.
Carries on, right?
Huh?
It carries on.
Yeah.
Your spirit, your legacy.
Absolutely. And it's not so much about your daily as an individual while you were here. It's a concept of your view or expression of the world, or how you potentially put out your expression of your reality. And obviously it's not a real reality. You're extending a creative idea that transcends ordinary life, right? It transcends the monotony of daily existence, the repetition, right? And we want to break out of that, which is, you know, is a great thing. You want to live an existence of abundance and enjoyment and gratitude and prosperity and all the great things. And art can help you to do that, right? Because it inspires, right? Music, you hear a song, can make you cry, right? Literally can break you, right? It's a song, it's sound. You could have that same reaction with a painting or a sculpture or even a book or a movie or a theatre. You know, all those things that exist outside of you, they live on after you. And again, like I said, it's about inspiration, right? I've been inspired by, like, Caravaggio. Like I said, he's an artist that's hundreds of years before I came here. And you can look at that every day, or you look at a picture online, or you look at it in a gallery, and there's a connection to the past, but it's also a connection to him in his time, right? That's as real as when he finished it, right? It's as if he walked away from it right now, because it's still there, right? So it's time travel, right? And in the future, it's the same thing. It's a touchstone, right? And it's your ability to transcend time and reality through creativity, because inspiration will do that, right? How do you get somebody up into space? It's inspiration, right? How do you get somebody to build a home or a car or anything that we use, or that improves your daily existence, or the way you travel through three-dimensional reality, right? There's certain things you need to navigate three-dimension, right? You got a body, you grow as you come out little, and you get bigger, and you get older, but you need certain things, right? So you need clothes in certain environments, right? You need a way to get around. you need a roof over your head, you need food, all these things that allow you, because the ultimate goal is then from those necessities, you can then express yourself through other things. Once those needs are met, the next goal of the human is to express self in whatever way that may be. And like I said, it might be building an HVAC system, right? People didn't have that 100 years ago, right? 120 degrees outside, it's going to be hot in your house, right? You don't have to deal with that sort of stuff today. It allows you to live a different existence, right? You can be comfortable and express outside of discomfort or the past discomfort. So all those things allow you to transcend that. So that's the ultimate goal, is self-expression. Like I say, it doesn't have to be art. Could be coming up with a widget, right? Or a new way to make a tap work, or open a door, or pave a street. It's all valid. It's a wrap. Me, the groove, and my friend gonna try to move your feet to the hip, the hop, the hip hop, hippity hip that hip. You don't stop. Me, groove, and my friend. Should have done that at the end. I'm just for.